And welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf, and I am here continuing the conversation with my business partner, good friend, and president and CEO of Riverstone Logistics, Charlie Workmon. Charlie, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Pumped to get started on
Part two. Well, we ended part one.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to that, go back and check out the riveting background experience of Charlie Workmon, Bulldog Movers. We left off with Hurricane Katrina, and Charlie just got married, trying to wrap up school, and just found out they were pregnant, expecting child number one, and had now he had a sense of purpose in his life, hence the wardrobe change.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
I think what I said was nothing lights a fire under you like finding out you're going to be a dad, or some version of that. But I was on a ride back to work after finding it out. I was praying. I just hit an intense level of focus when I walked into that trailer on the other side of that drive.
I've seen that level of focus. I've seen the Charlie Workmon level of focus.
It would become something that I've stumbled on a couple of times in my life. There just wasn't anything that was going to stop me when I got there from putting it all together, figuring it all out, intense focus. And even though I didn't know the phrase at the time, burn the ships was what was happening. Mm-hmm. It was me putting myself into a mental, a mindset that really situated on, it's no more fighting against logistics. This is the opportunity I have right now. Mm-hmm. And it is as good an opportunity as any I could expect to find. It's a blessing to be here. Stop treating it like it's a curse or something that's weighing you down or something that you want to run away from. Embrace it. Go all in. Don't let yourself look back and see what God does with this.
And this is the self-talk you're telling.
This is what I'm telling myself.
Yeah,
okay. And it's really it's more than, there's telling yourself and convincing yourself. I was really articulating what I felt. It was in me. And that's just something, I don't know. It's innate with learning that I was going to be a dad.
Okay. So you're how old at this time?
Oh boy. So that would have been 2005. I'm about to have my 25th birthday.
Okay. So you're on the cusp of 25 and you're, I guess, a manager down in New Orleans?
Interim manager.
Interim manager.
Yeah. The interim
Did you
tag.
ever finish your 21 hours you need to?
Never. So I get down there with a renewed focus, and I bust my butt, and I'm arguing with the Home Depot a lot, with a lot of their key leaders down there that are really just being heroic. They're just working their butts off for their community, and I'm working with them. I'm solutioning with them. I'm working with the employees and contractors that I'm doing business with. I'm working all hours of the night. I get to move on up away from the trailer at some point, and I get to actually stay in a hotel. And
you were sleeping in the trailer for the
I was sleeping and working in the trailer. It was set up with as like Command Central.
Okay.
And
hopefully it had a shower in there.
It did not. There was a shower in the back of the Home Depot in their locker room area, so I used that. Okay. But I ended up at a hotel and felt like a king, by the way. So I got a good night's sleep, but I was in as early as I could be. I wanted to beat everybody by a couple of hours. I wanted to plot out the day. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go back through the routes. I wanted to make sure there wasn't any obstacles. I was checking the DOT website, looking for any accidents early in the morning that we could avoid, or that I could reach out and say, hey, you want to take a different route? And I had maps out. I was ready to go. I was sending encouraging emails to all the store managers or back of the house managers of the Home Depot, letting them know I'm on call. I'm here. Here's how you can get in touch with me today. Just a very intense level of over communicating, over servicing, and really just letting everybody know that today's not going to be a great, perfect day, because we're going to encounter a lot of obstacles like we always do. But I'm here, and I'm going to be here with you through it. And that mindset started getting some compliments, and some people at the Home Depot were, reaching out to some folks at Cardinal, just saying, I'm doing a good job. The first time I heard that feedback,
really, it
lit me up. Yeah, okay. Of course. Yeah. So,
wow.
But it was really a pivotal moment, because I was working really hard every day as a reset, but then I started hearing good feedback, and those feedback loops started really encouraging me down the path I was already on. But it really, each one made me just that much more motivated to go and do the best I could possibly do, and to eventually find my way to a non-interim tag manager role. So,
don't you think there's a story in that? The how it lights you up, the human psychology of that recognition, and hey, recognizing you for doing a good job, and like, I like this. Yeah. Tell me more. So it's like a craving. Right?
Yeah, it's a craving. It's a need. And we all have different, obviously, love languages or whatever term you want to use. Certainly, receiving compliments is something that nobody doesn't love.
I think I was going to say that's a universal love language.
It's a universal love language for sure. And
all right, so you're doing this job. You were interim for how long?
So I think it was late December, almost, I think just after Christmas, when we had a new manager in place. I had been working with that manager, training them, and I got a call from another division at Cardinal Logistics with a job offer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't know what I was going to do after that, and I didn't even focus on that. I just focused on winning every day.
Okay.
And then I saw new faces come into the fold, and I got to be a part of training them and preparing them. So I started to think, probably early December, what's on the other side of this? Am I going back to school?
Like to finish your degree?
To finish my degree.
In person or online?
Either way. My wife still wasn't done, so she had another semester.
And she's like halfway pregnant now.
And she's pregnant, a couple months pregnant.
You just turned 25.
I just turned 25, and but I'm not scared. And I think there's something on the other side of it. I'll figure it out. So just keep doing the right thing, winning every day the best I could, and got a job offer. Cardinal Logistics called me, a different division, so outside of my dad's purview, and it was, we want you to come back to Atlanta, Georgia. We want you to run the night shift of the Office Depot cross-dock, or Office Depot, I guess it was a cross-dock, but it was a cross-dock network hub. So Courtney, I called Courtney. I was like, we have a chance to move to Atlanta. We have a more permanent job, no interim title, stability. Let's go. So we moved to Atlanta. She finished everything she needed to do online. At that point, she was done with the on-site experience, and we moved back home and got to be around family and got to go work a night shift for the next, I think, 9 months. Okay. Which was, again, the reason why they called me, I think, is because nobody would take this job. Okay. It was an 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift. Okay. And just overseeing 53-foot trailers, just, people just drop a hook, bump the dock, do milk runs around the Office Depot network of retail stores, and so just getting to babysit everybody overnight was my role. Not a very desirable job.
And you're doing this for Cardinal Logistics, but is it still part of the mode from Bulldog's legacy, or is it a separate division?
So this is separate. This is outside of what Bulldog does. This is more traditional truckload environment, and not final mile, not big and bulky. This is moving office inventoried office supplies into and dropping trailers at Office Depot stores for them to be unloaded and the shelves to be replenished. So.
And so during this time, so this would have been 2006, your first child is born. And Courtney, who's from Columbus, Mississippi, correct?
She's from Columbus, Mississippi.
Yeah, so she's moving to Atlanta, Georgia with her new husband, and you guys have your first child, and you're a manager. You're having success. You're getting recognized at Cardinal Logistics. Yeah. You do this job for 9 months, and then what?
They offered me another job. They wanted me to go run a 24/7 role with Georgia Pacific. So it was overseeing their corrugated box distribution, so boxes, and a corrugated, whatever they called it. So their box distribution throughout Middle America, essentially everything from Minnesota down to Texas and over, as far as, I think, Georgia, the Georgia line. So it was out of Memphis, Tennessee. So we up and moved. We go to Memphis, Tennessee now. And I take this job they couldn't fill with anybody else, a theme. If it's hard for somebody else, it's just right for me. Okay. I'm ready for it. I want the experience. I want to be able to take on the hard stuff and win. And for me, I feel like that's what gets me to the next promotion. That's what gets me to the next pay raise. That's what gets me into a better position to provide for my family. So I took it without hesitating. And, Courtney and I had a little bit of a debate, but for her, that was getting her closer to home. And so we moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and I start running Georgia Pacific's corrugated box delivery network. So did that for a couple of months and really just learned what it was to be on call 24/7 because those trailers are moving 24/7. They're not, it doesn't stop when builders aren't on site anymore, and it doesn't, so I don't have a shift anymore. I'm not a shift manager. I'm the only voice, the only manager, the only person to hold it all together.
Not 7 days a week though, is it?
7 days a week, 24/7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And people need boxes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was crazy. I don't know why they staffed it that way.
Yeah.
The very slim margins in that business. So,
and you said you did it for a couple months, but you were only in Memphis for a couple months, or?
I did it for several months. And then I got a call from a familiar voice who was representing a company called 3P Delivery. My dad, again, had moved on to 3P Delivery from Cardinal Logistics during that time.
Was this his company or someone else's company?
So this was somebody else's company, and he formed a partnership with a couple of gentlemen who had started a small 3PL, non-asset based, providing logistics services for the Home Depot, of course, who thought the world of Bud. And so they wanted to bring him on. And actually, Carl Meyer, who was the CEO of that entity, had been instrumental in my dad's growth with Bulldog Movers. Okay. So it all kind of came full circle, all rooted at that Home Depot.
So your dad had left Cardinal and the Bulldog Movers division, joined 3P
Delivery at the time,
okay.
Which would become 3PD, which would eventually be acquired by XPO.
Okay. And so he calls you, you're in Memphis for about how long before you get the call from your dad?
Probably 3 or 4 months. It doesn't take long. Doesn't take long.
And then you move back?
So while in Memphis with Cardinal Logistics, uncover some billing errors that had been historical over the course of years, while trying to produce invoices, which was part of my role. And I self-reported those errors first to Cardinal's management team, and then obviously to my client, Georgia Pacific at the time. So kind of waved bye-bye to my bonus opportunities because we weren't really making as much margin as we thought we were going to make. But I got to do the right thing and have a good moment there.
It was going to be charging the client more or less?
Well, we were overbilling. Historically. So got faced with an opportunity to kind of be self-interested or to do the right thing. And I got to do the right thing, which is awesome. It's what I love the opportunity, hate that was happening with them, and hate that happened to Cardinal. But so there was a little bit of conflict in the air there. I was navigating through it. I was sharing it one night with my dad, just kind of like, this is what I'm, dealing with. And in the middle of the conversation, he says, well, maybe you should come work for me. Okay. And I said, well, I don't know what I'd do. What would I do? And he said, well, I just need good people that I trust. And I want to, I've got a lot of different roles, but if you guys want to stay in Memphis, I've got this role overseeing a huge part of the country. The Home Depot has all these remote stores that are not part of contiguous metro markets, and they need oversight. You could run a region for me. Okay. And so I said, how much are you going to pay me? And so we got through negotiations. I got interviewed by the person I would report to, and whose name's Kent Ferris. And I got hired. So joined 3P Delivery earlier than expected. And they gave me a truck, some keys, and said, go figure it out. And so I started driving around the country to each Home Depot store, introducing myself, and running a bunch of motor carrier contracts, and so back in the Home Depot world.
And so you're like, I think I'm trying to piece it together. You're 26 years old at the time. And
sure.
So how long did you do this?
Probably 27 at the time now. Okay. And so I did this for probably 9 months, roughly.
In Memphis?
Out of Memphis. Okay. And so did that, and then I'm missing my family. So got a little girl, find out I've got another one on the way. Okay. And so Kate's going to have a little sister. And so I just want to be at home, and I got to find a way to be at home. So I ask around at 3P Delivery, which was then transitioned to be called 3PD at that time, and just said, is there something else I can do? I really didn't get many good leads on that. I had a really strong boss who was pretty well entrenched in his role, and I just wanted to know where my next stop was. But I knew I had to earn it, so just kept staying focused. And then eventually I just decided to stop into Menard's corporate headquarters in Texas, and on the way to one of my remote stores.
Was that in Iowa? Or
I think it was Illinois. I could be wrong, but it was, stopped in there and just had a card and walked up to the front desk and said, can I speak to the COO? I think I've got some delivery solutions he's going to want to hear. Totally naive, unprofessional. And she just kind of chuckled at me. I was just kind of like, who is this guy? Well, a VP of operations was walking by at that time and just kind of walked over. He was like, did I hear you just asked for the COO? I was like, yeah. And I did. And he said, well, what do you got? And I said, are you the COO? He's like, no, I'm VP of operations, but that shouldn't matter to you. This isn't how this works. But, and I said, oh, great. That's awesome. Well, I'm with 3PD, and we do deliveries for the Home Depot and manage logistics services for them. And we'd love to do that for you. And he was like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll take your card. We'll set up some time next week. Mm-hmm. So I did that, and I went back to, to the executive team at 3P Delivery, say, hey, I got this great opportunity with Menards. It wasn't really an opportunity. It was a conversation. And they kind of chuckled at the circumstances too. We had the call. There just wasn't really anything with Menards to do at that time. But I took the opportunity to say, hey, I want to sell logistics services. Can I get a chance to do that?
Okay.
And they said yes. So they moved me back to Atlanta, and I became director of business development for the newly rebranded 3PD.
Okay.
And got the opportunity to go sell quality logistics solutions, multi-year, multi-million-dollar deals.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what time is this? What year is this?
Oh, man. 2008, I think,
Okay.
right about.
Right around the Great Recession.
You got it.
Okay.
What a time to go sell quality solutions. So, nobody wants to talk about quality. Everybody
Hopefully
wants to talk about cost.
it was a good base, not just a commission.
Oh, man. It was a decent base. Uncapped commission, but that didn't really matter. Look, I wasn't ready for what I had signed up for. Like so many of the other roles, it was about me getting into it and figuring it out. And again, and you think you see this repeatedly throughout my career, I find myself in situations where I'm on an island. Mm-hmm. And whether it's Georgia Pacific and I'm the guy on call 24/7, or it's Office Depot and I'm the only person there for 12 hours at night, holding together all the movements, and or it's, obviously me in a trailer in a Houma, Louisiana parking lot. Whatever it is, I keep ending up on islands. Now I'm in business development in the recession, and we're cutting heads at 3PD, cutting support. Sales support's one of the first things to go. So we got a lean and mean team there at 3PD at that time, and I'm just trying to make it up as I go.
Okay. And so then what happens?
Yeah. So first I had a boss there that was really patient with me, which is key. Will O'Shea, I think. Yeah, I know
Will O'Shea.
Yeah, Will's a good guy. Yeah, I think he's part of Ryder now. But he was very patient with me, taught me the ropes, gave me a really great book. That's where a book will come into play. Strategic Selling. Which really kind of helps you distinguish between the different types of buyers: an executive buyer, a technical buyer, a user buyer, a gatekeeper, how to navigate in a really professional way in a complex selling environment.
Is that more for B2B sales or any type of sales?
Well, it is more for B2B sales. Okay. It can kind of be applied to any kind of sales, but really you're looking at trying to decode how an organization works. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of people with big titles at big companies, but big titles don't equate to big influence or final influence, more importantly.
Yeah. Okay. Strategic selling.
Strategic selling. So Will introduced me to that book and really took his time and was very patient with me and brought me in on some early opportunities where he kind of handed the ball to me so I could stump my toe on some smaller opportunities, and I did. But I think very early I was kind of showing that sort of I just wanted to get out there and get myself into a situation where I could prove that I can do this. And so remember, it was probably just a couple of weeks into the job. Will calls me one day and said, "Where are you? I don't see you in the office." And I said, "Well, I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm driving to Gap, Pennsylvania." And he's like, "Why are you, what?" I didn't approve any travel. And he's like, "Well, I set up a meeting with Urban Outfitters out here." And he's like, "Well, I don't think Urban Outfitters has big and bulky. So why?" And ultimately it was just me just saying, "Hey, I set up a meeting. I just wanted to go introduce myself and be aggressive." And he's like, "Well, I appreciate it, but I don't know if you know this, but the economy's not doing so good. We're cutting expenses. So we need to have better reasons to go travel." But didn't get a deal done with Urban Outfitters. But it was just that type of kind of just desire and eagerness to just get out there and figure it out. And I ended up cobbling together a couple of small deals from beginning to end, where I got to kind of really be a part of the engineering process. Certainly was a part of the cold calling process, had to figure out how to be creative and get people's attention and what data to ask for, how to process through that data with the people alongside us at 3PD and who were helping engineer the deal, and how to create really eye-popping presentations, how to sit across from a C-suite or economic buyers and really convince them that we were the right solution for them, how to overcome objections like your cost is too high. And ultimately, for the few opportunities I won during the Great Recession, we won, I was in a position where I get to pick that team and really be a part of the startup and really be a part of the ongoing customer advocacy.
What's maybe one client deal that you won, and what was the objection you overcame?
Unfortunate what's happened with them, but Toys R Us gave me an opportunity that was really them trying to get their products, bigger, bulkier products into consumer hands quicker. Think, kind of some basic swing sets, installation of those. The Babies R Us brand had cribs and things like that. So they needed a store-to-home solution where you picked up in the back of stores. So problem with that is there's not a lot of density coming out of a single store a day. So you have to very creatively, put the solution together to be able to stop by multiple stores, possibly other unrelated brands, pick up as much as you can and go make deliveries, and still orient motor carriers on how to assemble a variety of goods across a number of different brands. So the only way that could be made to work was really, giving them a solution nobody else was at the time. So they were used to people telling them that they will, bring the product back to a distribution center and then commingle it and then send it out. That's extra handling on product that doesn't need to be handled extra times. So I was offering a solution where it was just, we come there, we pick it up, we take it. It was a higher ticket, but it was a better experience with lower damage rates. So it was
and that's what they wanted to hear.
That's what they wanted to hear. They wanted to hear that, hey, you're going to save me from damaged product. So there is maybe not an upfront cost expectation that's going to go our way, but there is a back end.
Okay.
So,
was that successful?
Yeah, we got it up. We got it off and run. We got it up and running. We obviously did deliveries for them. They really liked us.
Okay.
But
And so what happened with 3PD?
Well, before we get there, I think it's really important to say that during that Great Recession time, I got introduced to a guy named Jonathan Ishii. And
the co-founder and former president and CEO of Broad River Retail.
Absolutely.
Who we've had on the podcast.
Who and I've seen that podcast. And
yeah, it was an 8-part series.
Yeah.
This one might rival that.
We'll see. I'll do my best to try to keep us to 7. But no, we got introduced because my brother was best friends with his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And
Dylan Winship. And which of your brothers?
And Greg, my youngest
brother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dylan Winship, because he married Ann Winship.
He did.
Who's now Ann Ishii.
Yeah. Who I went to high school with.
You went to high school
and college with.
Oh,
yes.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Small world. They all thread together.
They do. So it was kind of an easy. It was not a cold call. It was a warm introduction. Yeah. And Jonathan was great to me. I mean, he humored me, so you could tell you guys had a long-term provider and somebody that you worked well with, and you guys were slow to change with respect to long-term vendors who had been good to you. Mm-hmm. And but he took the call. We walked through it. And a couple weeks later, your VP of Operations, Chris Dolsky, called me and we arranged a meeting, and I came up to see you guys in South Park.
Yeah, we had an office in South Park for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We were subleasing a spot. And so I do remember you guys. Now, we were in the Great Recession. What struck us as odd is we couldn't accept anything that we're cutting expenses too. And we're cutting salaries, payroll. I think Jonathan went a year without taking a salary. And we're trying to figure out how to lengthen our runway because we had just bought out Jackson at the time. So we'd also put on debt and pushed our cash in largely Jonathan at that time to buy out Jackson. And so it's he and I, and we're trying to make sure we don't take any higher expenses. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys were going to be a little bit higher, solution for us than maybe now at the end of the day, it probably would have been a higher quality solution. We just didn't think that way at that time. And we couldn't wrap our heads around taking anything that would have an increased expense because as revenues are going down. So also recall you guys, very nice, but you were flying up on your private jet. I remember, how did I get here? Oh, we flew up in the private jet. I was like, that's probably not a cost structure that's probably not the right type of company for us. It just felt a little bit too big for our britches.
No.
Do you remember coming up on the company?
I do. It was, trust me, if you were on this plane with us, you would think less of the plane and the vision of a private jet. But
you weren't coming up. Well, I would go to Atlanta for corporate meetings sometimes. I was going on American or Delta, US Airways maybe at the time. Yeah. I wasn't going on the corporate jet, which sounded really nice. I was like, this seems like a lot of margin in that expense.
Oh well, yeah, there was. And the jet had propellers and was very bumpy. I came up, I got introduced to you guys. I loved y'all from the first time I got to meet y'all. Y'all didn't know, but I just saw two purpose-led men, whether you knew who you were or not. It was just clear that you guys were running a business a different kind of way, and I wanted to be associated with it. So at that time, that looked like, trying to get you to sign a contract and let us serve you on the logistics side of the house. But I knew some way I wanted to be in business with you guys. And so, but that wasn't meant for that time. However, what I did get at that time was a book.
Yeah, I gave you a book, right?
You gave me a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the book?
I think it was The Theology According to Lost or something like that. I probably have the title wrong.
It's a great book.
Yeah, you probably gave it to me thinking there's no way he's going to read that. But we had been talking about Lost, which was all the rage at that time.
Lost was this great television show, had a terrible ending, but cinematically it was great. And I used to have Lost parties at my house. People would come over and we'd watch it. It was a great social experiment environment, and it was a social exercise. And then you could always kind of debate. And this was really before social media was really big. You could kind of debate what's going on, what's happening at Lost. And so I think some pastor in Texas wrote a book, The Theology According to Lost. You liked Lost.
Yeah.
I said, well, I got this book, and the way I like to read is I kind of mark it up. So I gave you a book.
Yeah. Yeah. You gave me a book. I felt like it was going to be a long shot for y'all to take the deal that we were offering at the time, and but just you're in good company. A lot of people rejected my proposals. But what I did get to do was read that book, and on flights, I used to read on flights, and I guess I flipped to a page and I got to see the list of baby names that you and Kelly were considering for your firstborn.
Yeah.
And I saw one was either circled or underlined, and I would tell you years later that I knew your son's name.
Well, the funny thing about that is Kelly and I, we were surprised. We didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. Yeah. So we had a boy name and a girl name for our first. We actually did that for both. And we did not tell anyone what the name would be. Yeah. So you're the only person who knew what my son's name was going to be other than Kelly and me. So anyways, funny story. Yeah. Okay, so we didn't do the deal. We had a good chance meeting. And by the way, we really liked you. We wanted to figure out how to work with you too. But we're just like, gosh, we just can't have an increase right now, and so we don't do a deal. We'll circle back to our relationship But take us through what happens to 3PD.
Yeah.
And we'll then conclude this chapter.
Well, first we get out of the Great Recession, or the beginnings of pulling out of that time. And I start to come into my own as a business development professional, stop seeing myself as a salesman and start applying the operator mindset to what I was doing. Started getting much more, not creative, but just direct about how I associated with clients and got in touch with them. And started building some really good long-term relationships that even to this day have played a role in certainly Riverstone's, what's happened with Riverstone. And so come into my own, start selling a lot more business. 3PD at large was just doing really, really well. And a really good business had been built by the Meyer brothers there. And they had good partnerships, really good executive team, and they were able to really chart a path towards a strategic sell.
Okay.
And which was their goal. And so they rolled up some acquisitions. I got to be a part of that. They came up with some new services within Final Mile that were important for me to see how they were built and play a role in building them and selling into them. And so I got to watch this organization that really over a many year period of time was preparing for an eventual transaction. I got to see what that looked like. And so it wasn't much of a surprise when in 2014, 3PD sold to XPO. And so I knew it was coming. And when it happened, I was obviously very, very glad for the executive team and partnership that comprised 3PD. But I also knew it wasn't for me. And as an employee, I had gotten to a point where I realized that was my cue and that it was time to move on.
And so 3PD becomes XPO Last Mile?
Yeah, Final Mile or Last Mile, whichever.
Yeah, the Last Mile, Final Mile division of XPO. And so they get acquired. You're with XPO then for how long?
Just a few short months. So
this is in 14?
Probably 5 to 6 months in 2014. We start integrating 3PD into the XPO culture, and nothing against XPO whatsoever, but it just wasn't for me.
And so take us out with this. What did you want to do?
Yeah. So for a while at this point, I had started to get an itch to be in business, and the dream was starting to crystallize that I wanted to start a 3PL. And it wasn't just a standalone dream where it was, hey, I just want to start my own 3PL and then go have my own version of a strategic purchase happen one day. It was, I want to build a company that treats people a very certain way and fulfills a very certain purpose. And so kind of taking what I was seeing and appreciating what I was seeing and what had been accomplished with 3PD, but also believing that there was opportunity to do things differently. And
that's a good place to stop for this episode. We ended episode 1 with your personal purpose.
Yeah.
And I think a good stopping point for episode 2 is an organizational purpose.
Sure.
So let's stop here and let's bring you back for part 3, which is kind of where our paths do cross.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us here at Stories from the River, part 2 of the Charlie Workmon conversation. Check back next time and we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the Broad River retail relationship with Charlie Workmon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.